The arrival of the stranger. The outpost of Varus 9 was no place for peace. It was a frontier station, a halfway point where smugglers, mercenaries, and desperate traders came to refuel and bargain. The air always smelled of burning metal and sour drink. Arguments often ended with knives or plasma shots. No one smiled here. But one evening, the doors of the main hall opened, and someone very strange walked in. It was a human. The aliens turned their heads. Most of them had never seen a human in person, only stories from the far edges of the galaxy. Stories that said humans were dangerous death-worlders, savage and unpredictable. So why did this one look so calm? He wore no armor, no weapons. Only a plain uniform, dark gray with a white patch on the chest. In his hands he carried a small tray, and on his face was something even stranger. He was smiling. The room grew silent. "What is this?" growled a thick-scaled merchant from the Varkon tribes. His claws tapped on the table. "A servant? Who dares walk in here with a smile?" The human stopped in the center of the hall. He bowed slightly, the way one might in an old Earth restaurant. Then he spoke in a clear, steady voice. "My name is Daniel. I am here to serve." The hall erupted in laughter. Loud, ugly, cruel laughter. "To serve?" a soldier barked, slamming his fist on the table. "You came all the way here to be a waiter?" Daniel only kept smiling. Yes, service with a smile. Some aliens mocked him, throwing crumbs of food at his feet. Others ignored him, thinking he was insane. But a few kept watching. Something about the calm way he stood in the storm of laughter made them uneasy. The outpost's overseer, a tall insectoid called Crix, rose from his chair. His sharp mandibles clicked. "Human," he hissed. "Do you understand where you are? This is Varus 9. Here, the strong survive. The weak serve until they die." Daniel nodded once. "I understand. That is why I am here." Crix tilted his head. He had expected fear, trembling, excuses. Instead, the human's eyes were steady. That smile never moved. "Fine," Crix said, at last. "Serve then. But when you are broken, no one will help you." Daniel bowed again and walked to the side tables. He placed his tray down, began picking up empty cups, wiping spills, and handing out fresh dishes. At first, the aliens mocked him louder. They shoved plates at him, demanded he clean their mess, shouted insults in their own tongues. But the human never raised his voice. He never grew angry. He only nodded, smiled, and served. And then, something strange began to happen. A fight broke out between two mercenaries at the far table. They shoved each other, knives flashing. The rest of the hall leaned forward, waiting for blood. But Daniel walked between them, holding a plate in one hand and a cup in the other. He looked at them, smiling, and said quietly, "Please sit. Your food will get cold." The mercenaries froze. Their breathing slowed. Without another word, they sat back down. The knives clattered on the table. The hall went silent again. No one laughed this time. Crix narrowed his eyes. Something about the human was wrong. No simple servant could stop a fight with just a smile and a calm voice. But Daniel moved on as if nothing had happened. He poured drinks, cleared plates, even brought a blanket to an old trader sleeping in the corner. Always with the same gentle smile, always calm. By the end of the night, the hall was quieter than anyone could remember. No more fights, no more shouting. The aliens ate and drank in silence, glancing nervously at the smiling human. When the last dish was cleared, Daniel placed the tray back on the counter. He turned to the room and spoke. "Thank you. Service with a smile. That is all." Then, he bowed and walked out into the night air. For a long time, no one moved. The air felt heavy, like after a storm. Finally, one of the mercenaries whispered, What just happened?" Crix said nothing. His mandibles twitched. His instincts told him the truth. This was no ordinary servant. This was something far more dangerous. And for the first time in years, fear crept into the halls of Varus 9 service. With a smile, the next morning the outpost of Varus 9 was uneasy. Word had spread quickly about the human. The mercenaries who had nearly killed each other now avoided eye contact. The traitors spoke in low voices, whispering about the smiling servant. Even the guards, who usually joked about blood and weapons, kept their hands near their guns when they remembered his face. But Daniel returned as if nothing was strange. He carried the same small tray. He wore the same plain uniform. And on his face, the same smile rested calmly like it could never fade. Inside the hall, the noise died as soon as he entered. Every alien eye followed him. Daniel gave a polite bow. "Good morning." Service with a smile. He walked between the tables. Some pushed their cups forward. Others dropped food on the ground, testing him. Daniel did not hesitate. He picked up every piece, wiped every spill, and handed out food and drink as if it were the most important task in the galaxy. One alien, a scarred Reval warrior, leaned forward with a cruel grin. "Human," he growled. "Do you know what we do to servants here?" He slammed his heavy mug on the table, making the liquid splash. "We break them until they beg." Daniel simply smiled back. "Then you will be disappointed. I do not beg. I serve." The warrior blinked, unsure how to answer. He expected fear, trembling, at least anger, but the human's calm voice cut through him like steel. Crix, the overseer, watched from his chair high above. His insect eyes followed every move. Something about this man was dangerous, but not in the way of soldiers or assassins. This was a different weapon, quiet, invisible, yet sharper than a blade. The true test came that evening. A transport ship had arrived, carrying drunk mercenaries from the front lines. They were loud, cruel, and looking for trouble. When they saw Daniel walking with his tray, they burst into laughter. "Look at this. A human servant," one shouted. "Is this the warrior species the galaxy fears?" Carrying cups like a drone, the leader of the group, a hulking Brekar soldier with steel plates across his skin, stood and shoved Daniel hard. The tray tilted, but Daniel quickly steadied it. Not a single cup fell. The Brekar snarled, leaning close. "You dare smile at me?" Daniel's eyes met his, calm and steady. "Yes, I smile because that is what you need most." The room went still. The Brekar froze, fists trembling in the air. He wanted to hit, to crush, to break. Yet something in that smile, something deep and unsettling, stopped him. His breathing grew heavy. His hands lowered. Slowly, almost unwillingly, he sat back down. The mercenaries around him shifted nervously. None of them understood what had just happened. The strongest fighter on Varus 9 had been silenced by a single smile. Daniel bowed slightly. "Thank you for your patience. Please, eat." He set the cups down on the table and walked away. That night, whispers filled the outpost. Did you see it? The Brekar couldn't move. He looked like he was under a spell. No, it's worse. It wasn't a spell. He chose to stop. By midnight, the stories had already grown. Some claimed the human carried hidden tech in his smile. Others said he was part of a secret Earth program, an experiment in control. But Crix knew it was something else. He remembered the way the mercenaries' eyes had gone hollow for a moment, as if their rage had drained out of them. He remembered how quiet the hall had become. The overseer tapped his claws together. The outpost had always thrived on fear and violence. That was the law of Varus 9. But this human had undone it in a single day, without weapons, without threats, without force. Daniel returned each morning. He never raised his voice, he never argued, he never stopped smiling. And everywhere he went, the chaos of the outpost faded. A thief known for stealing credits stopped after Daniel gave him food with a calm nod. A mercenary who once killed for sport now sat quietly, staring at his drink whenever Daniel walked near. Even the traitors known for cheating each other began speaking politely in his presence. It was as if his smile was not just kindness. It was a command, gentle, invisible, impossible to resist. By the end of the week, Crix called a secret council. "This cannot continue," one alien hissed. "He is dangerous. He serves food, another snapped. What danger is there in that? You saw it. He stopped the Brakar without touching him. That was luck. Luck does not silence an entire hall. Crix remained quiet, his mandibles twitching. Finally, he said, "This human is no servant. He is a weapon, and weapons are never used for free." At that moment, the doors opened. Daniel entered, carrying his tray, smiling as always. "Good evening," he said softly. "I am here to serve." The council froze. None of them dared to speak. The human placed a cup before each of them, bowing politely, and with every bow, with every smile, the unease in their hearts grew heavier. The galaxy had feared human fists, human guns, human warships, but no one had ever feared a human smile. Until now. The first test, the outpost of Varus 9, had never been so quiet. For a place built on greed, violence, and fear, silence felt unnatural. But wherever the human went, silence followed. Daniel continued his work like nothing had changed. He carried his tray, wiped the tables, and greeted everyone with the same calm words, service with a smile. Most aliens avoided his eyes. They no longer laughed. They no longer mocked. Instead, they whispered in corners, their voices shaking. They all felt the same strange weight in their chests whenever he smiled at them, but not everyone was ready to submit. One night, when the hall was full of rowdy soldiers, a challenge rose. The challenger was a soldier named Torak, a massive beast of the growl species. His scales were black and hard like armor, and his arms were thick with muscle. Torak had fought on 20 worlds. He had killed more enemies than anyone else in the outpost, and he hated the human. "This is not strength," Torak roared, standing in the middle of the hall. "This is not fear. This is a trick. I will prove it." The aliens leaned back, eager to watch. Their eyes flicked between Torak and Daniel. Daniel only turned to him, still smiling. "Good evening, Torak. Would you like something to drink?" Torak snarled and shoved the table aside with one sweep of his arm. Plates shattered, drinks spilled. The hall grew tense. "No more games," Torak growled. "If you are strong, fight me. If you are weak, beg." Daniel set down his tray. His hands were steady. His voice stayed calm. "I do not fight. I serve." Laughter broke out again. But this time it was nervous laughter. The aliens wanted to see blood. They wanted to see what the human would do when the monster struck. Torak swung his arm, striking Daniel across the chest. The blow was heavy enough to break bone. Daniel staggered back 2 steps, but he did not fall. He steadied himself, lifted the tray again, and, still smiling, said, softly, "Your drink is waiting." The hall went silent. Torak roared in rage. He struck again, harder. This time the tray slipped from Daniel's hand and clattered to the floor. A cup rolled across the room, spilling red liquid. The aliens leaned forward. This was it. The moment. The human would finally scream, break, or beg, but Daniel only bent down, picked up the tray, and placed it back on the table. His voice was quiet, but it cut through the silence like a blade. "I will serve you, even if you strike me again." Torak froze. His chest rose and fell with deep, heavy breaths. His hands shook. He lifted his claw to strike once more, yet it would not move. His muscles locked. His heart pounded. A strange fear spread through him, one he had never known before. The hall waited. Then, to everyone's shock, Torak dropped to his knees. His massive body trembled, not from pain, but from something deeper. His weapon slipped from his hand, clattering on the floor. He whispered, almost choking on the words, "Stop smiling at me." Daniel bowed his head slightly, but the smile did not fade. The aliens around the room gasped. A Grawl warrior, the fiercest species on the frontier, had fallen to his knees before a single unarmed human. Whispers spread like fire. He broke him without a weapon. The human smiled. "It's not natural. No warrior can resist it." Crix, watching from the overseer's seat, clenched his claws. His suspicion was now certainty. This human was no servant. This was a test, and Varus 9 had failed. Later that night, when the hall had emptied, Crick summoned his closest advisors. "This cannot continue," he hissed. "If a human can bring Torak to his knees, what happens if there are more of them? What happens if they walk into every outpost, every fleet, every council chamber?" One advisor whispered, "They will not need guns. They will not need ships. They will take the galaxy with nothing but smiles." But another growled, "We should kill him now, before it spreads further." Crick shook his head. His instincts screamed a warning. Killing this human would not end it. It would only bring more. This one was not here by chance. He was here for a reason. Meanwhile, Daniel walked through the quiet corridors of the outpost. His chest still ached from Torak's blow, but his steps were steady. His smile remained. He whispered softly to himself, "They are not ready yet, but they will learn." That night, Torak lay in his quarters, wide awake. His powerful hands still shook. Every time he closed his eyes, he saw that calm human smile, and though he tried, he could not stop the fear crawling inside his heart. For the first time in his life, Torak, the killer of worlds, was afraid, and the galaxy had just witnessed the first test. Whispers in the dark. The name of the human spread, beyond Varus 9 like fire carried by the wind. Traders whispered about him in docking bays. Smugglers repeated the tale in smoky corridors. Soldiers laughed at first, but their laughter always ended with silence when they heard the details. A human who could bring warriors to their knees with nothing but a smile. On Varus 9 itself, the mood had shifted completely. The mercenaries who once ruled the hall now sat quietly. The loud fights, the broken tables, the bloody brawls, gone. In their place was a tense quiet, a silence that felt heavier than any threat of war. Daniel still walked among them, tray in hand, always smiling. He poured drinks, cleared plates, handed out food as if nothing had changed. But everyone knew. Everything had changed. One night, in the private chamber above the hall, Overseer Crix gathered his council again. The chamber lights were dim and shadows stretched long against the walls. "He is dangerous," Crix said, mandibles clicking with unease. "Every day he grows stronger, yet he carries no weapon." A traitor from the Sith species hissed. I saw Torak's face. That was not fear, it was surrender. No Grell warrior has ever bowed to anyone, and yet the human made him bend. Another counselor, a reptilian with sharp fangs, leaned forward. "What if this is their plan? What if humans have discovered a new kind of war? Not with ships, not with guns, but with something we cannot fight?" The chamber fell silent. They all remembered the same thing. The smile. Calm, steady, unshakable. It was more terrifying than any blade. At last, one voice broke the silence. "We must find out what he truly is." Meanwhile, down in the halls, the whispers were growing louder. Some said the human was using hidden technology, neural disruptors, invisible signals that changed the mind. Others claimed it was genetic, something in human biology that spread, like a disease. But the most frightening rumor was the simplest one. "He is not forcing us," one alien whispered. "We choose to obey, and that is worse." Torak, once the fiercest warrior of the outpost, had not spoken since his defeat. He sat alone, staring at his hands, trembling whenever Daniel passed by. No one dared mock him, because in their hearts, they felt the same fear. The real test came when outsiders arrived. A group of syndicate enforcers landed on Varus 9. They were not traitors or mercenaries. They were killers sent to collect debts. Their leader, a tall skeletal alien named Drac, had heard of the human and laughed. "A smile? That is no weapon," Drac sneered as he entered the hall. His black eyes scanned the room. "I will enjoy crushing this little servant." Daniel greeted him with the same bow. "Welcome. Service with a smile." Drac slammed his fist on the table. "You dare smile at me? I am here to collect blood, not kindness." Daniel poured him a drink. "Then drink first. It may ease your anger." Drac lifted the glass and paused. His claws tightened, but for some reason he could not throw it back at the human. His chest grew tight, his breathing uneven. That calm smile dug into him like hooks. The syndicate enforcers shifted nervously. They had expected a fight. Instead, their leader sat frozen, his glass trembling in his hands. Finally, Drac slammed the drink down and stood up, rage boiling in his eyes. But instead of striking, he turned and stormed out. His enforcers followed, whispering among themselves. By morning, the syndicate ship was gone. That night, Crix looked down from the overseer's seat at the silent hall below. He watched Daniel clear the tables, smiling as always, and his fear deepened. "This is worse than I thought," Crix muttered to himself. "He is not just calming the outpost, he is spreading control, and if this continues..." He could already imagine it. Outposts across the galaxy falling silent, soldiers refusing to fight, fleets lowering their guns, all because of a human servant with a smile. Later, in the darkness of his private chamber, Crix summoned a messenger. "Send word to the Galactic Council," he ordered. "Tell them the humans have a weapon. Tell them it wears no armor, carries no gun, but it will conquer us all the same. Tell them we are already falling." The messenger bowed and fled. Crix sat alone, mandibles twitching. His claws scraped against the stone table. He felt the truth pressing down on him like a weight he could not escape. The galaxy had always feared humanity's fists, their ships, their firepower. But this was different. This was quiet, invisible, unstoppable. And as Daniel walked the halls below, still serving, still smiling, the overseer whispered into the shadows, "The war has already begun, and we never saw it coming." The silent takeover. The outpost of Varus 9 was no longer the same. Where once there had been shouting, fights, and broken tables, now there was quiet order. The mercenaries sat in peace. Traders spoke softly. Soldiers avoided trouble. All of it because of one man, one human, who walked among them with a smile. Daniel never raised a weapon. He never gave orders. He only served. But his presence alone was enough to bend even the strongest. At first, the galaxy thought it was just a story, a rumor carried by frightened tongues. But then the stories spread further, too far to be ignored. A mining station reported that a single human worker had ended a strike without a single word of threat. A smuggler claimed she abandoned her trade after a human servant smiled at her and wished her peace. A war camp fell silent after one human passed through with nothing but a tray and calm eyes. The rumors all said the same thing. The smile stays with you. You cannot fight it. Back on Varus 9, Crix the Overseer watched in fear. He saw ships arriving not for trade, but to see the human. Captains came with their crews. Commanders came with their soldiers. They all wanted to test the story for themselves, and, one by one, they left in silence. Some were shaken, some were pale, some wept quietly in their ships before leaving, but not a single one mocked after meeting him. The hall that was once filled with violence now became something different, a place of pilgrimage. Aliens from across sectors came to see the human called Daniel. They came to test him, and they all left changed. The true shift happened when the first fleet commander arrived. His name was Relgor, a feared tactician of the Drakari Empire. He came with 2 destroyers and a squad of soldiers. His voice thundered as he stepped into the hall. "Human," Relgor roared. "I hear you bend warriors with your smile. Show me or I will burn this outpost to ash." Daniel approached calmly, tray in hand. His smile never faded. He bowed slightly and set a drink in front of Relgor. "Please, Commander, sit. Your men are tired. Let me serve." Relgor's soldiers chuckled. They expected their commander to crush this weak human. But then they saw his eyes. The commander froze. His jaw clenched. He sat slowly, almost against his own will. His soldiers fell silent. Daniel placed a hand gently on the table and said, "War is heavy, Commander. Let me carry some of it for you." The words were simple, soft, and kind. Yet Relgor's chest tightened. He felt the years of battle, the weight of blood, and for the first time, he lowered his head. That night, Relgor's fleet did not fight. It withdrew without firing a single shot. The galaxy began to realize the truth. Humans were no longer using fleets or weapons to spread their influence. They were using something else, something that no defense could stop. Daniel was not alone. Reports came in of others, humans in uniforms carrying trays, walking into camps and councils across the stars. Each one with the same calm smile. Each one spreading the same quiet power. And everywhere they went, conflict faded. Wars slowed. Soldiers lost their will to fight. Leaders began questioning their own orders. It was not an invasion. It was a silent takeover. Crix stood at the edge of the hall one evening, watching Daniel move through the crowd. The outpost was filled with aliens from 5 different species, all eating quietly, all strangely at peace. "You are winning," Crix said softly. Daniel turned to him, smiling. "I am not winning. I am serving." But Crix shook his head. His insect eyes narrowed. "You serve with hands, but you conquer with your smile. The galaxy will not resist you for long. And when that day comes, none of us will have a choice." Daniel placed the tray down, his voice calm but firm. "The choice is always yours. I only remind you of what you already feel." Those words haunted Crix, because deep inside he knew they were true. No one was forced. No one was chained. They surrendered because they wanted to. And that made it worse. Later that night, across the galaxy, in the high chambers of the Galactic Council, voices were raised in panic. Humans are spreading influence without fleets. Entire outposts bow to them without a fight. This is worse than war. It is control we cannot see. Some demanded extermination. Others demanded alliances. But one truth was clear. Humanity had found a way to reach where no weapon ever could. The heart. On Varas 9, Daniel looked out at the stars from the docking bay. His smile remained calm and steady. Behind him, Torak the Grawl warrior stood silently, no longer his enemy, but his guard. "You have changed everything," Torak muttered, his voice heavy. Daniel only whispered back, "Service with a smile. That is all." But the galaxy knew it was not all. It was the beginning of something far larger, something unstoppable. The silent takeover had begun. The truth revealed, the galaxy could no longer ignore it. From mining colonies to war fleets, from smugglers' dens to trade stations, everywhere a human appeared, conflict stopped. Soldiers lowered their weapons. Leaders changed their orders. Entire camps fell silent. It was no longer rumor. It was fact. The Galactic Council called an emergency session. Delegates from 100 species crowded the chamber, voices rising in panic. "They are spreading without firing a shot. They walk into our stations and bend our people with smiles. This is a weapon beyond warships." The fear was real, but still, no one understood how. Back on Varas 9, Overseer Crix watched the hall below. Daniel served as always, his tray moving from table to table. The mercenaries, once violent and loud, now spoke softly. Even Torak the Grail, once a beast of war, now sat quietly by the door, acting like a guard for the human he once tried to crush. Crix's mandibles twitched. His instincts screamed. He needed answers. That night he sent spies. Silent watchers followed Daniel through the outpost corridors. They expected hidden devices, strange signals, maybe some secret human technology. But Daniel only walked, served, and smiled. No weapons, no machines, only calm eyes and quiet words. Yet the spies returned, trembling. One whispered, "I tried to draw my blade, but when he looked at me, I could not move." Another muttered, "I wanted to shout, but my voice died in my throat." Crix clenched his claws. This was no machine. This was something inside the human himself. The council grew desperate. They sent scientists, doctors, and neural experts, to study captured humans. At first, the tests showed nothing unusual. Normal biology, normal brains, nothing advanced. But then one scientist noticed the pattern. When the humans smiled, their brainwaves shifted in ways no other species could. Copy. The signals spread like ripples, calm, steady, warm. And when those waves touched other species, they triggered something deep in the nervous system. Peace. It wasn't hypnosis. It wasn't poison. It wasn't mind control. It was resonance. Humans carried a natural ability to project emotion in a way that bypassed reason. A simple smile could trigger entire groups to drop their anger, their rage, even their will to fight. The council chambers erupted in horror when the report was read. "This is worse than any weapon," one delegate cried. "They do not kill us, they change us," another shouted. "We are not losing battles, we are losing ourselves." On Varas 9, Crix confronted Daniel directly. He stepped into the hall, his mandibles sharp with anger. "Enough of this! What are you really doing?" "Here, human?" Daniel turned, holding his tray. His smile was calm, gentle, unshaken. "I am serving," he said simply. Crix slammed his claws on the table. "Do not lie to me. I sent spies. I heard the council reports. You are bending us with something we cannot fight. What is this power?" Daniel looked at him for a long time. The hall grew silent. Everyone waited for the answer. Finally, Daniel spoke. His words were soft, but they cut deep. "It is not power. It is humanity." Confusion spread through the hall. Daniel continued. "You think I control you, I do not. You think I poison you, I do not. All I do is remind you what it feels like to be seen, to be respected, to be cared for. That is the smile. That is the service." Crix froze. His claws trembled. The words made no sense, and yet they cut into him like truth. The silence was broken by Torak, the once fierce warrior. He stood, his deep voice carrying through the hall. "He speaks truth," Torak said. "When he smiles, I remember my mother, before the war. I remember peace. I remember what I lost." Other aliens murmured, nodding slowly. They too felt it. The smile was not magic, not control. It was memory. It brought back something buried under years of war and hate, but Crix's fear only deepened. "If this is true," he whispered, "then you are more dangerous than any fleet, because you are not forcing us. You are changing us. And no one can resist it." Daniel bowed his head. "I do not want to conquer you. I only want to serve. But service changes hearts, and hearts change worlds." The hall remained silent. Every alien present knew the truth. The humans had found a path no species had ever walked. They could bend empires without firing a shot. They could win wars without lifting a blade. In the Galactic Council, the final words of the report echoed like a death sentence. Humanity does not fight for dominance. Humanity fights by reminding others of peace. And peace is stronger than any war. That night, Crix sat alone in his chamber. His claws scraped against the table, mandibles twitching with unease. He whispered to himself, "First Varas 9, then the galaxy. Soon we will all be smiling, and we will not even know when we surrendered." Below, in the quiet hall, Daniel continued to serve, his smile steady as ever. And the galaxy, for the first time in history, feared kindness. Service Complete Varas 9 was no longer a den of violence. The outpost that once lived on blood and fear had become something unthinkable, peaceful. Traders spoke kindly. Mercenaries shared tables without drawing blades. Even Torak, once a feared warrior, now sat quietly at the entrance, watching like a guard dog. At the center of it all was Daniel, the human servant, the man with the smile. Day after day, he carried his tray, poured drinks, cleared plates, and spoke the same quiet words, service with a smile. And with each smile, the galaxy changed. Far away, in the high halls of the Galactic Council, the panic was spreading. Reports arrived hourly. A war fleet withdrew after one human boarded and served food to the crew. An entire pirate clan surrendered their weapons after a human offered them bread. A colony divided by civil war fell silent when a human walked into the square and smiled. The council chambers shook with fear. "They are not fighting us," one delegate cried. "They are undoing us. Every human is a weapon we cannot resist," another shouted. "If this continues, we will all belong to them without a single shot fired." But even as they argued, a quiet truth settled among them. There was nothing they could do. Armies could be stopped. Ships could be destroyed. But how do you fight a smile? On Varus 9, Crix called Daniel to his chamber one last time. The overseer's mandibles clicked nervously. His claws tapped the table. He could feel his heart racing, though he hated to admit it. "You win," Crix said softly. "Look at my outpost, it belongs to you now. Not because you conquered it, but because no one here can resist you." Daniel bowed his head. "I do not seek to own, I only serve." Crix's eyes narrowed. "Do not lie. You are spreading across the galaxy. Every station whispers of your kind. This is no accident. This is a plan." Daniel looked up, his calm eyes steady. His smile never faded. "It is not a plan. It is who we are. Humans serve each other. Humans smile through pain. And now, we serve the galaxy. Not with fire, not with war, but with something stronger." Crix leaned back, mandibles twitching. "And what is stronger than war?" Daniel's voice was quiet, almost a whisper, but every word struck like thunder. Compassion. That night, the skies above Varus 9 glowed with the arrival of ships. Not warships, not fleets of steel, but simple transports. The docking bays opened, and from them stepped more humans. Dozens, hundreds, each wearing the same plain uniform. Each carrying the same simple trays. Each walking with the same calm, steady smile. The outpost froze as they entered the halls, moving quietly among the crowds, bowing politely, offering food, clearing tables, speaking the same gentle words. Service. With a smile, it was no longer one man, it was many. And beyond Varus 9, more were coming. To other stations, other camps, other worlds. The galaxy realized the truth. This was not chance. Humanity had chosen this. This was their weapon, their invasion. But it was too late to resist. Crix stood on the balcony, watching as his outpost bent not from chains or fire, but from kindness. His voice was heavy, full of dread. "We are finished," he whispered. "Not by guns, but by smiles." Torak, standing beside him, shook his head slowly. "No, not finished. Changed." Crix turned sharply. "Changed into what?" Torak's eyes softened. "Into something better." The final message from Varus 9 spread across the stars, carried in every whisper and every frightened report. Humanity has come. They do not kill. They do not conquer. They serve. And in their service, the galaxy is no longer our own. In now, the hall below, Daniel set down his tray and bowed to the gathered crowd. "Service complete," he said softly, and the galaxy, whether it wanted to or not, bowed with him.